Hi, with me today is Ernesto Boado, co-founder of BGD Labs, which develops the Aave protocol. Welcome.
Hi.
To start off, could you talk briefly about BGD Labs and its role in developing the Aave protocol?
Yeah, like the BGD Labs is like a community initiative, mainly of developers, which previously we were part of the Aave ecosystem. Like for example, on the Aave Genesis team, I was the CTO before. My co-founders were like the lead developers of all the iterations of the protocol or the other services that are around. Basically now we just came together as another initiative of the community, just contributing to certain parts of the ecosystem, mainly like in development parts. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's quite cool. I mean, community initiative, decentralization. Can you talk a little bit about decentralization as a concept? What's the current situation? Do we have sufficient decentralization, and what could be done to get more decentralization?
Yeah, I think like the decentralization topic is a bit of a multi-layer thing. So like back in the days, let's say last 3 years, 4 years, like people was more talking about the decentralization of the base networks themselves, like for example Ethereum. Progressively as DeFi, for example, became a thing, or other type of protocols became a thing, people started thinking more on how to achieve proper decentralization even on the upper layers. So for example, DeFi applications or DeFi protocols like can it be Aave. And well, I mean, at the moment, I think we are in pretty good shape. For example, like in technical aspects and like, let's say, on-chain aspects, we are in a pretty healthy situation, I would say. Now, lately, the main challenge is to scale that to organization level, for example, because, well, when you have like a decentralized system or ecosystem, is more or less a bunch of smart contracts and software, but it's also like a lot of people that is around, like doing a lot of effort, and how to coordinate those people without like a central source of authority, let's say, like in the case of Aave, is pretty challenging. So like that is, for example, why we are starting this BGD initiative, because like the Aave Genesis team was part of the past development of the protocol, quite fundamental, and now is still like another contributor, but the same as them, and like dozens of other contributors. Like we think that it's pretty important to have more people coming, grouping together, and take part of the progress of the ecosystem. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, what is your take on the current state of liquidity protocols? Are they still popular? Is there still substantial room for growth?
Yeah, I think so. Like in my opinion, we are saying this like for the last years, but I really believe that we are still in the early days in multiple aspects of liquidity protocols. So both in terms of like the size of these systems, but also in terms of how complex they are, which innovation they bring like to more like traditional liquidity side of the world. So yeah, like still on the early days, but at the same time they are pretty complex already. Like they are for sure bringing a lot of innovation on things that before on the real world or didn't exist, or not in the shape that we are presenting them. I'm referring like to protocols like Aave, for example, where like they basically scale as much as liquidity enters, or like, I don't know, Uniswap, or even like aggregators like 1inch, like building like the connection on top of everything else. So yeah, I think in a pretty healthy like situation, complex enough, but with a lot of room to still grow in all senses.
Let's take a step back and look at a bigger picture. The world's economy is in disarray now because of the war in Ukraine and some other factors. Under these circumstances, how do you see the role of blockchain and crypto? Are there any specific new opportunities?
Well, yeah, right now we are in a pretty, let's say, difficult situation worldwide, especially because of like the interconnection, interdependency that there is, that something like this, this war is causing around the world. So, well, it's really difficult to say which is the role of DeFi, of cryptocurrency, and so on. But what I can definitely say is that it has a role. It's starting to get a role. Like you can see, well, governments, of course, like private companies and so on, discussing of, okay, but which kind of measures we need to discuss in order for what is happening and how cryptocurrencies or like DeFi protocols and so on could have an influence on those facts. So like, yeah, definitely has a role. Like really difficult to say which kind of role. Hopefully it will be like a positive role, like empower people that right now sadly is suffering a bit. But yeah, like a bit difficult to say. For sure a role.
Mm-hmm. Looking back some 6 months or so, what has been the dynamic between decentralized exchanges and centralized exchanges? Is it correct to say that decentralized exchanges have been gaining popularity?
Yeah, I mean, definitely like this. I don't think it's even a matter of months. Like, I remember like in the beginning of DeFi, like 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, where like there was this idea of DeFi will be really powerful when DEXs have like important size, important volume. Back in the days it was not the case, but nowadays we are seeing like billions and billions of volume, like in like both base DEXs, like Uniswap, like Balancer, like Curve, and then like on aggregators on top also, like consequently like a lot of volume. So like definitely I think they are in the place that they should be, and probably less than they will be in the future. And yeah, I'm not fully sure if they are gonna go on top of the centralized exchanges, but for sure it will be like an hybrid scenario of both in terms of dominance. So, yeah.
My next question is about anonymity in crypto. Do you think users should have the right to remain anonymous, or is it still mandatory for users to go through all those KYC and AML procedures to make sure that they don't do anything criminal or nefarious?
Well, I mean, it's pretty difficult question, I would say, but we should not forget, and that I think is one of the powers of the Web3 movement for the reason that we are here, that there is an ethos like behind like all developments, and obviously part of that ethos is like freedom, and it's also privacy, which I consider part of freedom. So like obviously I understand that for certain like interactions, for example with the fiat world, like is necessary to have some kind of protection and procedures, but still like I think there is plenty of room like for technologies that allow you to have your own privacy especially on chain. So like I think it's pretty important, and it should keep an important role there. Yeah.
Could you share your thoughts on stablecoins? Like, for instance, the most popular stablecoins, USDT and USDC, are they stable enough? And also, do you think there are opportunities for stablecoins to become proper means of payment?
Well, yeah, I mean, answering the second question first, obviously, like the peg nature to the US dollar or to the euro or to some other like fiat currencies is key if you want to have like a currency for payments, because with a volatile asset like can it be ETH. It is possible, but it's really difficult to scale it to like worldwide retail level, let's say. So yeah, like pretty important, like that role of payments, stablecoins. And then about the first, in terms of stability, well, at the moment, if we see like perspective of already like years, even when the stablecoin market was not so big, like the stability was more or less kept, like at all points. So what is going to happen in the future? Well, difficult to say, because not even the dollar itself is so stable nowadays, but there is really no signs that USDC, USDT die, or even the new stablecoins that are appearing like should not work for the future.
Now I want to ask you about a few issues that the blockchain space has been facing. Scalability is one of those issues. How far are we from solving it?
Well, I think that is like the question of the million, I will say. But what is definitely true is that there is like really serious attempts on that, and even technology, we could say, like in production, to that tries to solve that. You have multiple types of roll-ups. You have like side chains. Mainly that, but like you have like 5-6 actors at the moment, like working in multiple directions and trying to solve scalability. And then you even have like the base blockchains, like can it be like Ethereum, with the roadmap already like quite focused on scalability. For example, now with the transition with the merge to 2.0, or however is the name now, well, first proof of stake, which even if it doesn't affect directly scalability, like, well, the consensus change is quite big deal. And then down the line you have sharding and some other things that are for now a bit experimental, but definitely like they are targeting like having big scalability. So I think, yeah, pretty good attempts, and during the next like 2 years I think we will see like full usage of these L2 sidechain solutions. Yeah.
Another issue has been interchain communication. At what stage are we in terms of having efficient interchain communication?
Well, I think that is part is quite related with the scalability of the network too, because you mainly need interchain communication when those solutions, in some cases L1 solutions, but especially when you get like full usage on rollups or other type of L2 solutions, then you need proper like interchain communication. So right now, like there are multiple projects, both on the side of those L2 solutions, but also just standalone projects that are trying to tackle this kind of communication. So like I think we are still starting. We are seeing that like the security is getting improved all the time, and maybe we are still not there. But I also think that during the next year or so on, we will have like really solid solutions. At the moment, like the best example is that is Aave itself, where we already like have in the core system of, for example, the governance, cross-chain communication, and it works. Yeah.
And my final question is on mass adoption of crypto. Are we still waiting for some kind of killer app which would take mass adoption of crypto to a really new level, or is it not a viable model, and we just have to move gradually in terms of mass adoption? What is your take on that?
Well, I don't know. Like I think like the concept of the killer app is more a concept of the Web2 world, in which like you create a use case that was not before, and people just in mass start to use it. I think the Web3 is a bit different. I think like the killer app is more like of a mind switch, and is like related with the concept that we discussed before, like of privacy, of freedom, and so on, and how it is this technology of Web3 like enabled then. So I think that the killer app will be like when people will finally, and is already realizing how powerful is this, how much can be the influence even like on global dynamics like the war that you mentioned before. And at that point, like I think the adoption will just explode even more than it is right now.
Thank you for your insights, Ernesto. Thank you.
Thanks, Maria.